Hey there, everybody, it's Mark Kepp with CampgroundViews.com. Today I've got two special guests with me from Peak Energy Technologies, William and Carol. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
So I've met you at the Carolina trade show, the North and South Carolina trade show event, and you had this similar display that's up next to you right now. And you guys sell something that's very unique, and it's really timely right now, because as we come out of this COVID crisis, park owners are going to be looking for ways to start reducing costs as rapidly as they can. And you have a device that can save them 15 to 25%, or it depends on how much electricity they use, but can save them up to about 25% on their electricity bill. And so I think this is a really important conversation, and we're not doing any sales pitch here, because I think the first thing anybody's going to say to themselves when they hear that statement is, yeah, right. So introduce to us what you do and how it works.
So what we do is we help people recycle and reuse some of the electricity that they currently purchase. And this actually is helpful for their electric bill, which is, for many parks that we talk to, is like the second highest bill expense that they have in their operating park. We've talked to some park owners. We're in 46 states and in Canada and other parts of the world as well. And in talking to them, some of them are using the savings from there to actually either increase their marketing budgets, or to actually use that to generate capital for improvements that they couldn't afford otherwise. And so
the device, if I'm looking at your display right there, what do we got going on? What is the device, and what does it actually do?
What does it actually do? Okay, so it works with the devices that use magnetism, okay? And so you have a lot of those in your campground. So for example, motors, pool motors, laundry equipment, refrigeration in the central offices. You might have water park features, or well pumps, sump pumps, as well as the air conditioners and the fans that you may have in the RVs themselves. The other thing that is also the electronic equipment. So they may not use as much as the motors, but there's a whole lot more of them. Your fluorescent light bulbs, your computers, your cell phone chargers, your TVs, all of those. You have a whole lot of them, so they kind of add up. Now, there are some things that it doesn't help with, and that is things that use electricity to generate heat. So the curling iron, the toaster oven, an electric water heater, those things are as most efficient as they're going to get, but those are far and few between that are actually used in various RV parks. And so this actually helps it quite a bit. And so the science behind this is that they all use 60 hertz alternating current, which means the voltage goes up and down 60 times a second. Now, if we take this process slowly, when the voltage is climbing up, what you're really doing is buying electricity from the power company to build a magnetic field in the motor or in that little brick that you use to charge your laptop with. Once that's been built up, the next chunk of electricity, as it continues its climb, actually does something useful. It's why you turn on the switch. It gives the ceiling fan motor a little push, or light comes out of your computer. Then the voltage drops, and it repeats that cycle on and on again. Now, the question is, when that voltage drops, that magnetic field in that brick or in the windings of the motor collapses. What happens to the energy? It didn't do any work, and it can't vanish. It actually gets converted back to electricity and goes back to the power company. You bought it, and then you send it back. You buy it and send it back. You do this 60 times a second, every single second that you have anything plugged into the wall. We have a better idea. On the way out, we're going to capture it in the peak energy saver. We're going to store it for a fraction of a second, so that when that voltage starts to climb back up, that energy for that brick in your laptop or the windings in your motor comes from here first, and then the rest comes from the power company. So the magnetic field goes from magnetic energy to electrical back to magnetic in a continuous cycle. That's why we call this recycling electricity. Now, seeing, that's the science behind it, but seeing is believing. So I have here a demonstration. This is a half horsepower motor, typical what you see like on a an RV's air conditioner. And this is pull this wire out from the switch in here so I could see, we could easily monitor what we're actually getting from the power company.
Cool.
So,
so we'll bring Carol out and put a, so you can see her screen. Let me bring her back in. Oh, we lost your connection, Carol. Go ahead and connect again with your phone. Oh, there you are. Okay.
All right. So you can see here that from the power company, we're buying about 7 amps from the power company, right? 6.9 something. And just to make sure everything's fair and square, we're going to go down here to the motor, and you can see we're using the same current. Now, when we install the peak energy saver, we'll install it with the circuit breaker and turn it on, and you'll see the green light comes on, and the motor still gets the same current, right? Same voltage, same current. It's a happy camper. But how about from the power company? Now I'm using significantly less. It's about less than 3 amps. So I've cut this down in less than half. So I'm buying 2.8 amps from the power company, giving the motor nearly 7. I turn it off, the motor doesn't know the difference.
Carol, can you show us the device a little bit closer with your phone? So that's the unit right there. And that, where do you install that unit at then, William?
So you would install this right by the circuit breaker panel using a 15 amp double pole breaker. You would put that into an empty slot with 2 rig wires, go to the circuit breaker panel. And this is mounted about 6 to 10 inches away from that main circuit breaker panel. That's by the meter. If you have a primary meter system, where it's basically one bill for the entire park, you would have multiple transformers scattered throughout your park, and you would actually install it right by that transformer. Yes, that's coming from you.
No, I got her muted. I'll mute mine as you're talking. That may get rid of that feedback.
Okay. So
that's amazing. So just so everybody knows, this is the first time we've ever done this. We've got 3 devices going on here. We've got Carol's phone muted. So you're just going to have to ignore the feedback because we can't hear you when you're going, William.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. So you would install this right by the main circuit breaker panel, either next to the meter or the transformer, whichever that is that you have throughout your park. Many parks typically have basically 1 meter or 1 transformer for, say, 6 to 20 RV sites that are in there, and how that's set up varies across there. This is the standard single phase unit. We also have 3-phase, because some RV parks actually have 3-phase electricity in there, and so that's a different kind of scenario.
Okay, so you showed us the device, and so here's, and I know the first time I saw you, I asked these questions, and you probably get the questions from everybody all the time on this because, again, it looks like magic. What's the catch? How is this real? So one of the questions I asked you, and you obviously responded to it, is where did this come from? Have these things been around? If it works so well, how come I've never heard of it? Do people actually use things like this, and where have they been used before?
Right. So this was actually invented back when electricity was a brand new industry, back in the 1810s, 1820s. It's been used in large factories, and so it's a standard product category for the large factories, the General Motors plants, the really large amusement parks, and factories that are scattered all over the country. Until recently, the cost of electricity was so low, it didn't make economic sense. But in the past, say, 20, 30 years, the use of air conditioning in homes and in RVs and so forth, the usage of electricity keeps going up and up, and also the rates, instead of being 1 or 2 cents a kilowatt hour, back when the power company was trying to get people to go use electricity, is now that's come up. So the cost has come up and the need has come up, and we came up with a way that we could share this across multiple loads instead of having one per motor, right? So this is actually shared across many different RV sites, whereas the traditional old-fashioned way of doing this a long time ago is you would put one on every single device, which is extremely expensive. So we figured out a way to actually bring this technology to the RV parks in a cost-effective, economical way.
So Mark, one of the questions we get asked is, well, if I have multiple panels, do I need one for each panel? And the answer is no, because if you put it in the main panel, it also, because it's installed with that breaker and we're now in line, we're in parallel with everything that works not only in that panel, but any sub panels that are connected.
Got it. Because and I'm going to be a dummy here because I don't know anything about electricity at all. So in that logic, you're saying there's 60 hertz coming down the line. So you got this wave of electricity coming down the line, right? Mm-hmm. And that wave's not going to change. So if one RV is plugged into a pedestal and the other one's plugged into a pedestal, they're both getting that same wave coming down the line. So you're storing the energy that's coming back at that same wave and just putting it back on the line in sync with that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You got it.
Okay. So you mentioned that this is used in commercial purposes, and I want to encourage everybody to go prove it for themselves. What should they go to Google and search? What are these things called on the large commercial side?
They're basically automatic power factor correction units. They typically start at somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000 and go up from there. So that's the reason why it's not economical for RV parks. But you can see that technology. We also have, because we've been doing this for over 10 years now, and 10 years in the RV park industry, we have a number of folks that we can actually, if they're interested, they can reach out to us. We'll be happy to share with them contact information to reach out with customers who have said they are more than happy to share their story.
Also,
well, I don't know if you remember when I met you at Carolina, you showed me what this thing was. I asked you a very obvious question. And the question was, if these things work so well, you're going to be rich, number one, and everybody should have these in their parks. And I think probably the reason why, obviously you got to get the word out there, and we're doing that right now. You're hitting, 1,800 park owners right now, or 2,000 park owners from 1,800 parks. So I want 1,800 parks calling you to put these units in. And at least, or at a minimum, calling you to talk to your referrals to test you. So cause it's one thing for us to say this, everybody knows, but these things work, like they're real, it's legit. What is preventing somebody from saying, yeah, I'm going to install this thing?
Well, a large part of it is concern about whether it really is going to work for them. And so, do I take the risk that I actually trust what you said and what I see with my own eyes with this? It's like, I don't really understand electricity. How do I know? So we have a program called the Certified Electricity Recycler Program, where we actually take that doubt and that risk off of the RV park owners and put it back on us. Okay. So if you're not going to save, if you're not saving 10% of the kilowatt hours that you had before, we'll buy it back. So that's how we remove the risk.
Simple as that.
It's as simple as that. We believe in this so much that this is what we're willing to do to actually show you that this actually works. And so we have a process going through that certification program of actually documenting how well it works in your particular park that's in there. And when you get done with it, when that process is done, if you'll share with us your bills and your camper nights, and we'll go look at the weather. Those are the three major factors, that and whatever changes you may have made to your RV park since we were doing it. Those are the four major factors that really have a large impact on your electric bill. And we go and analyze that, look at what it was the previous year to this year, and we do that comparison. In some cases, RV park owners, they've been making so many changes that comparison from last year doesn't really work. And so we'll do what's called a short run test. So we'll basically, once you get it installed, run it for a week or so, take the Campground data, then turn it off and then run it for a week or so. And then we compare those to their, again, looking at the weather, whatever changes you may have had, as well as the camper ice. And that's how we measure what that efficiency is. Even though your business may be going up or down, normalize that out so that we can actually see what's happening. Now that may not work so well if you're only looking for a 1 or 2% reduction, but we're guaranteeing at least 10. And this is good enough to say, am I going to get a 15, 20% reduction in my electric bill or not? And that's really what we're trying to guarantee and take that fear away from people that, maybe it worked for this guy, but it's not going to work for me.
So the units cost how much?
They're normally $450 for the single phase unit that we have in here. We typically, from time to time, we'll run show specials at various trade shows and so forth like that. The 3-phase, they are bigger and they're more expensive. From most of the campgrounds, they're probably somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000. But then they're probably serving, say, 100 campsites, as opposed to one of these is only serving maybe 20.
Okay. So that'll serve about 20 sites, so you can do the simple math off that. And you also mentioned there's some question to how the park's wired, that impacts how many units they need also. So really their best bet is to call you, or have whoever understands their wiring in the park call you, and then start having a conversation from there on what makes sense. So if they buy the unit, is this something that they just plug in, or should they plan on hiring an electrician to wire these things up?
So a number of RV parks actually install them multiple different ways. Many of them have their own electrician, a staff electrician, and so they'll have them go do that, or their maintenance guy go do that. In some cases, the owner themselves will want to do that. This is fairly straightforward. If you can basically add a branch breaker into your circuit breaker panel and you feel confident enough to open it up, then you have the skills to actually go install this. In other cases, you may want to go hire an electrician to come in there, and so that it really boils down to what you have. Most of the laws will allow you to go do that, but if you're going to charge for that, then you have to have a professional licensed master electrician.
Beautiful. Peak Energy Technologies, we're meeting with William and Carol. I know that things are going to be a little bit tight and you're going to want to start reducing costs. Here's a pretty cool product to check out that could probably help you save some money over the next year, so I recommend reaching out to them. And the website is what?
peakenergytech.com. That's
Peak Energy Tech. And how can they reach you on the phone if they want to call you?
It's 888-613-7775.
I appreciate your time today. There you go. My whole purpose is to help you save money and operate your parks better. Really interesting technology. As you can show, it's a little bit of magic, but it's based upon legitimate stuff that's going on out there, put into a reduced size for your parks. Definitely check it out. I appreciate your time today. Thank you too.
All right. Thank you very much.